Have you ever found yourself perched on the edge of something you've always dreamed about? An acceptance letter in hand, a new opportunity just within reach, and then, almost without warning, something inside you steps back. It's as if a gentle current pulls you away from the light just as you are about to step into it. In those quiet moments, when the excitement turns to a familiar nervous flutter, you might feel confused or even a little ashamed. But here's the thing, you're not alone, and what you're experiencing is more common than you might think. Many of us at some point self-sabotage the very success we say we want, and there are real psychological reasons behind it. Self-sabotage isn't about laziness or lack of grit. It often feels like something else is controlling the wheel, an inner voice whispering doubts or fears. Psychologists have names for these hidden forces, concepts like learned helplessness, fear of success, even imposter syndrome. These aren't insults, they're just ways to describe the patterns that can trap us. Understanding them can help you break free. Consider learned helplessness. This is a phenomenon where, after enough setbacks or painful experiences, you start to believe that nothing you do will change the outcome. Imagine a child who tries to solve a puzzle and fails repeatedly. Eventually, they might just give up, certain the puzzle is impossible. In life, this can feel like a deep, unconscious conviction that trying is pointless. Researchers describe learned helplessness as feeling powerless to change adverse situations, essentially disengaging from your goals and believing you have no control. Over time, this belief makes you give up on trying, and you end up missing opportunity after opportunity without even realizing why. It isn't true, of course, you do have the power to change things, but the mind has convinced you it doesn't. Then there's a stranger concept, the fear of success. Yes, it's possible to be frightened not by failing, but by doing too well. Maybe you've noticed that just when you're about to achieve something big, an anxious knot forms in your stomach. You might even find yourself procrastinating on the very tasks that will lead you to win. This isn't coincidence. Psychologists explain the fear of success as essentially being afraid of achievement itself, so afraid, in fact, that we unconsciously sabotage ourselves. Think about that. Your mind is worried about succeeding, and it triggers the same self-protection you might use to avoid a threat. Why would success feel threatening? Often it's about what lies on the other side of the dream. Success can carry unexpected costs. You might worry about new pressures or responsibilities that come with doing well, or about losing the comfort of what you already know. In fact, experts note that success often does come with costs and sacrifices. Maybe you'll be expected to keep winning. Maybe relationships will shift, or the spotlight will feel too bright. On some level, your brain is whispering, "Are you sure you want this?" Those whispers can feel very loud. What's tricky is that these fears often disguise themselves as everyday behaviors. From the outside, it might just look like procrastination, perfectionism, or a sudden loss of interest, but internally, it feels like a push-pull you can't explain. Psychology today points out that when fear of success is in play, it can look like laziness or a lack of motivation. In other words, someone might assume you're just not trying hard, but really your mind is rolling out an unconscious self-defense, pulling back from the brink. You might find yourself quitting a project when you're almost finished, or deliberately choosing smaller goals, all to avoid that moment of "what now?" when a dream actually comes true. Alongside these, listen carefully for the voice of imposter syndrome. Maybe after a win, your first reaction is not joy, but a whisper, "They're going to find out I don't belong here." It's as if no matter what you accomplish, part of you thinks it was just luck or a mistake. This is incredibly common. Psychologists describe imposter syndrome as a persistent feeling of self-doubt in high achievers, a fear that you'll be exposed as a fraud despite clear evidence to the contrary. You may chalk up your success to luck or timing, believing deep down, I'm undeserving. One Psychology Today article sums it up: people with imposter feelings truly believe they're undeserving of their achievements and fear that others will someday discover the truth about them. Imagine being praised for a job well done and feeling like you don't really deserve that praise. It's a painful spot to be in, but it's also one shared by a huge number of people. Researchers suggest that up to 70% of us experience those imposter doubts at least once in our lives. Take a breath. Let yourself feel what comes with reading that. Maybe you recognize some of these feelings in yourself. It can be surprising and relieving to see these things named out loud. None of this means there's something wrong with you. These patterns of thinking are learned from past experiences. In fact, many therapists note that these self-sabotaging patterns often have roots in earlier times, often childhood. Think about it. As kids, what messages did you absorb about success? Sometimes even well-meaning adults might say things like, "Don't brag," or "You're too good." Unknowingly, they can teach us that shining bright is not okay. Over time, those beliefs can become deeply ingrained. Experts explain that self-sabotage often comes from childhood conditioning, ingrained beliefs, or unresolved emotional trauma. In other words, we carry forward lessons from our past, and those lessons can sometimes say we don't deserve happiness, or that being happy is too risky. For example, imagine a child who grows up amidst constant conflict. A therapist might hear a story like this: Michael was doing so well. His grades were improving, he was helping around the house. Then one day I found him getting into trouble, and he's in trouble for a week. To an adult, this might seem arbitrary, but to a child in chaos, it makes sense. As one trauma specialist points out, kids like Michael learn that even trouble has an upside. It's predictable. When your home life is stormy, being in trouble means you at least know what to expect. As she puts it, familiarity equals safety for our nervous system. If a child is used to anger and upheaval, calm and success can feel unfamiliar, almost frightening. So, if good things start to happen, subconsciously, the child might recreate a storm by misbehaving, pushing people away, or panicking just to feel safe again. This is one way that long ago experiences quietly echo into your adult life. In fact, therapists note that self-sabotage is much more common among people who have gone through significant trauma or neglect. When the mind has learned that bad things come from doing well, maybe you were criticized for doing well, or experienced abandonment around a success, it clings to old, painful patterns. You may find you repeat the same mistakes, or stop yourself from pursuing opportunities because deep down, some part of you still thinks it's protecting you. The key insight is that it is often memory protecting you, not malice. At this point, you might notice a mix of feelings: understanding, relief, maybe a little sadness. It's okay to feel all of that. You might even imagine times in your own life when this showed up. Perhaps you've erased a job application at the last minute, or you've put off a life-changing conversation with someone important. Maybe you've told yourself, "It's fine, I didn't really want it after all," only to realize later that you did want it. All of these are examples of self-sabotage in action. Recognizing them can be the first step to changing them. You deserve to take your time with this realization. If you feel a pang of guilt or confusion, know it's part of the process. Being afraid of success doesn't make you weak. It means you've learned to be careful. And being careful is simply human. The good news is, once we recognize these patterns, we have choices. You're no longer helpless, even if it feels that way. So what can you do now? First, give yourself kindness. Try talking to yourself like you would a dear friend who feels scared. If you notice the inner voice saying, "I'll fail," or "People will see I'm a fraud," pause and gently challenge it. Say, "Maybe, but I deserve to try anyway. Small steps can build confidence. One idea is to practice mindfulness. When a worry pops up, notice it without judgment, almost as if you're an observer. Over time, you might catch these thoughts early and remind yourself that they come from old fears, not reality. Some people find it helpful to celebrate even tiny accomplishments aloud, to reinforce that success is yours. Perhaps keep a journal of positive feedback or memories of times you succeeded, and read it when doubt creeps in. Other strategies include talking with someone you trust about these feelings. Sometimes naming the fear takes away some of its power. A therapist or counselor can provide tools, cognitive behavioral techniques, for example, to rewire those old beliefs. Above all, be patient. Think of it like tending a plant that's grown crooked. You don't yank the stem, you gently guide it a bit straighter each day. Your thoughts and habits can change with time, practice, and support. It's normal to feel vulnerable when confronting these things, but every time you push forward despite the fear, every interview you attend, every bold email you send, every moment you allow yourself to feel proud, you're reteaching your mind that success isn't the enemy. You might want to pause this video for a moment and breathe deeply. Really let that idea sink in. Your fear is just a part of you, not the whole. Imagine telling that frightened part, "Thank you for trying to keep me safe, but it's okay for me to have happiness too." As we come to a close, picture the next time you find an exciting opportunity in your path. Instead of turning away, imagine smiling at the fear and taking just one small step forward. Maybe it's enough to catch the trail of sunlight just before it creeps away. You might still feel a flutter of nerves, that's normal. But every tiny forward move weakens the old pattern.